Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. We will be making our descent to Baltimore Harbor shortly, so all guests should be seated on either of the observation decks. Please fasten your seatbelts as it may be a bumpy landing. Thank you.
Oh, my good... I can't seem to work this seatbelt gadget, Mr. Snore. Would you mind?
My pleasure, Fräulein Dunn. Did you enjoy our abbreviated trip?
Well, this plane and the luxury and all has been just grand, but the people... Well, sir, I found most of them just a little bit too nosy, if you ask me. I hope Mr. Barnard uses more discretion in inviting the guests for our next flight.
What you say may be true, Fräulein. However, as a guest, I feel we should be as tolerant of the shortcomings of others as possible.
That's very generous of you, Snore, considering the master race policy of your Führer.
Our internal policies are hardly a topic for international discussion. Besides, it has not been that long since your own country practiced slavery.
Snore, you may be a big shot in your country, but here in the States, people see you and Herr Schickelgruber for what you are. Power-mad racists who think they can trample democracy into the mud. One day, the world will put an end to petty dictators of your kind. But for now, there's still a murder to be solved, and nothing would please me more than be able to tie you into it.
Idle threats and insults, my friend, are the refuge of a desperate man.
Do you mind if I join you, Lady Waddington?
It is a free country, or so I am told.
Miss Simmons, I think you have done quite enough to annoy the guests. Why don't you sit with Monsieur Peters, huh?
Of course. We couldn't have Lady Waddington mixing with the hoi polloi, now could we, Leclerc? I mean, what would people think if she was seen associating with us common folk?
Oh, I have just had about enough of your innuendos, you fourth estate trollop. Now, if you have something to say, then out with it.
Yeah, I'd like to hear what's on your mind, Vera. Spill it, or leave the lady alone.
Oh, can it, Peters? If you were doing your job instead of sitting on your hands, Byron might have some good news to wake up to.
Wanda, my pet, I have been looking all over for you. Here, sit with Mr. Peters and me before the plane lands.
I'm sorry, my little Mojo Wojo. Did you miss me? I was just mingling and I guess the time got away from me. Short trip, huh, Ned?
Yeah, doll, too short. I had a lot of questions that didn't get answered about the murder of your friend Weltner.
Gee whiz. For somebody who didn't get invited, people sure were talking about him a lot. Isn't that bad luck or something? I mean, talking about dead people?
Well, somebody on board knows more than they're letting on.
What do you mean, Mr. Peters?
I mean, I'm pretty sure the killer is on board the Condor right now. So if there's anything you haven't told me, now's the time. Or else a cold-blooded killer will get away.
You mean you think one of the guests killed Jerry? Oh, Ned, catch him. I can't stand the thought of them getting away with it. Oh, no, I wish I had never come on this trip at all.
Well, there you're safe with me. You see what you have done, Peters? You and your nonsense speculation. Why, if you have a shred of evidence, why don't you confront the criminal and get it over with?
Cabron, you wild stallion. If it wasn't for this seat belt, I would leap into your arms.
Oh, Marushka, my volcano of passion. What is your pleasure tonight? Dancing until dawn or a mad drive to Atlantic City in the Bugatti, eh?
They are quite a pair, aren't they, Peterson? I shall have to invite them to my next art exhibition. They certainly have a way of livening up a party.
I think they do it more to show off than for anything else, Kudasai.
Perhaps. Like the peacock who craves attention. But I sense they are much deeper than that. Those that are the most conspicuous often have the most to hide.
That's very profound, Kudasai. Any particular observations you'd like to share?
Observations? Oh, not really. It's just an old proverb that make me seem inscrutable.
While searching Kudasai's berth, I opened a valise that contained an envelope wrapped in a silk ribbon bearing the Imperial seal of Japan. The document was addressed to Hermann Snore, deputy to Reichsfuhrer Rudolf Hesse. It outlined an agreement to an alliance between the Empire of Japan and the Third Reich, dedicated to the goals of world domination. I was suddenly aware that someone had entered the room. I turned and faced Okanju Kudasai, who was holding a small brass pistol.
So, Mr. Peters, your curiosity has come to this. The great seal of the Emperor of Japan exacts a high price from those who violate its sanctity. I am sorry I cannot accord you the honorable death worthy of such a crime. Yet, this is the modern world, is it not? This will have to do. Sayonara, Mr. Peters.
The odd jumble of conversations I had heard kept running around my brain like rats in a maze, until the unmistakable change in the sound of the engines told me the Condor was landing. The sinking feeling in the pit of my stomach was not from the rapid descent, but from the knowledge that I'd failed Barnard, and his son's killer would walk off the plane. Great birds skimmed the surface of the harbor, then settled into the blue water. As a taxi to the Barnard Industries dock, the faces of my suspects flashed in my consciousness, and each had that same smug look, like a gambler who'd just drawn an inside straight. I walked to the gangway and watched as the others left the plane.
Well, Ned, I guess this is goodbye. Don't let it bother you too much. Life is too short. Dos vidania, darling.
Lady Waddington, may I have the privilege of escorting you to your hotel? I know what an ordeal this has been. No thanks to Monsieur Peters.
Oh, thank you, Francois. I want to forget this whole incident. Oh, I certainly hope this doesn't get into the society papers.
Oh my, this has been exciting, hasn't it, Mr. Peters? Although I must admit, I feel much better now that we are back on solid ground. Goodbye, my friend.
I think if this was the end of a movie, your line would be, "Here's looking at you, kid." But you look like you've got a mouthful of mothballs. Why don't you stick with something you're good at, skip it.
I knew she was right, of course. But that didn't stop me from thinking about the strange collection of people that swirled around the murder of Gerald Weltner. And that's just where the case of the cautious Condor stands today. No answers. Just a lot of questions I should have been able to answer. Questions I'll no doubt ponder again.